I get it, he ran for office, but that doesn't change the Constitution. There are other processes that we have to go through. We don't allow presidents to act outside of the Constitution. I would certainly hope you'd advise the president that he is also bound, that he will take an oath of office here in a few days to uphold the Constitution, and we have to abide by that, not because you just believe something. There is a process to go through. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is there anywhere in the Constitution that gives the OMB director to determine whether or not a law is unconstitutional?
Again, there are 200 years of practice by the presidents of the United States have used
So
this.
you're saying these courts are wrong? That's fine if they're wrong, but these are the laws of the land right now.
I'm aware that they are the laws of the land and the caseload that is on the books, and this is something that the administration will consider when they are in these roles, if confirmed.
So you're going to continue to challenge and break the law going forward?
Sir, I'm not going to continue to break the law. I'm giving you my commitment to uphold the laws of this land. This
And
administration.
these court precedents, you don't care about the court precedents? Mr. Voda, under your leadership in 2019, OMB illegally withheld $214 million that Congress appropriated to the Department of Defense to provide security assistance to Ukraine. The Government Accountability Office concluded that OMB's actions were a violation of the Impoundment Control Act and that your actions then forced Congress to reappropriate the funds. Just 4 years ago, you told this very committee that under your leadership, OMB would abide by the Impoundment Control Act. However, your past actions and public statements suggest that you may not follow this law in the future. So my question for you, sir, is if you are confirmed as OMB director again, do you commit to follow the law and allow OMB to withhold funding from, and not allow OMB to withhold funding from programs that Congress has appropriated?
Senator, thanks for the question. I will always commit to upholding the law. I disagree with the characterization of the General Accounting Office. My time at OMB, we followed the law consistently, and we will continue to do so.
So that you can withhold funds that are appropriated by Congress? You think that's within the law?
Again, Senator, we did not hold inappropriately funds. We were engaged in a policy process with regard to how funding would flow to Ukraine. We released the funding by the end of the fiscal year.
Do you believe the Impoundment Control Act of 1974 is the law of the land that you must follow?
It is the law of the land. As you know, the president has run on that issue. He believes it's unconstitutional. For 200 years, presidents had the ability to spend less than an appropriation if they could do it for less. And we have seen the extent to which this law has contributed to waste, fraud, and abuse. But as it pertains to the parameters of how we would use that, that's something that his team will have to consider when they are confirmed in these roles.
So you know that the Impoundment Control Act has created a process that's been held by courts over and over again. Courts in Train versus City of New York have consistently rejected attempts by presidents to withhold funds unless Congress clearly allows it. And Clinton versus New York also determined that laws which allow the president to unilaterally cancel appropriations are unconstitutional. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is there anywhere in the Constitution that gives the OMB director to determine whether or not a law is unconstitutional?
Again, there are 200 years of practice by the presidents of the United States have used
So
this.
you're saying these courts are wrong? That's fine if they're wrong, but these are the laws of the land right now.
I'm aware that they are the laws of the land and the caseload that is on the books, and this is something that the administration will consider when they are in these roles, if confirmed.
So you're going to continue to challenge and break the law going forward?
Sir, I'm not going to continue to break the law. I'm giving you my commitment to uphold the laws of this land. This administration.
And these court precedents, you don't care about the court precedents?
No, sir, that's not what I've said. I've said that the president has run on the issue of impoundment and has reminded the country that 200 years of presidents have used this authority, and we'll be developing our approach to this issue and strategy once his administration is in office.
Okay, well, you know, as a member of the Senate Appropriations Committee that I am on, in addition to this, I've worked very hard with colleagues to negotiate in good faith and reach bipartisan spending agreements. And I'm concerned about your actions and statements about the president going to be able to unilaterally refuse to spend money that Congress has appropriated. I get it, he ran for office, but that doesn't change the Constitution. There are other processes that we have to go through. We don't allow presidents to act outside of the Constitution. I would certainly hope you'd advise the president that he is also bound, that he will take an oath of office here in a few days to uphold the Constitution, and we have to abide by that, not because you just believe something. There is a process to go through. But my question is, how will Congress be able to negotiate in good faith if the president is simply able to disregard the bipartisan laws that are passed through the appropriation process? How do we negotiate with someone who says, I'm just going to do what I want, to the hell with the Constitution?
Again, Senator, I think that's a mischaracterization of the president's viewpoint on this matter, and it is not something in which would impact bipartisan negotiations, notwithstanding anything that he announces with regard to impoundment.
So if the president can refuse to spend appropriations passed by Congress, wouldn't he now just basically have the power to simply pick all the winners and losers who receive government funding? He has all that power.
No, of course not. But again, I'm not going to get into the parameters of the power that it requires a policy process by his incoming team.
Very concerning. Congress has granted the president broad authorities to respond to real emergencies and crises, like pandemics and natural disasters. However, past administrations of both parties have unfortunately abused these authorities, as the chairman and I have noted. In fact, Senator Paul and I have worked together on bipartisan legislation to curb the abuse of presidential emergency powers and reassert proper congressional oversight. And I'm deeply concerned about reporting that indicates that you designed the plan to abuse the National Emergency Act to circumvent laws passed by Congress by moving military construction money to build the border wall. Do you commit? So my question for you, sir, is do you commit to not recommend the use of presidential emergencies to accomplish the president's policy agenda?
Senator, with regard to that instance in our first term, we were specifically using the transfer authority that had been provided in the language of the Department of Defense appropriations to be able to transfer that authority to the Army Corps of Engineers for its use on the border wall. It was specifically a transfer authority that Congress had given the president in the underlying appropriation.
There was you circumvented the laws. I think it's pretty clear. My question is, next question and last question here in remaining time, will you support efforts to rein in presidential authority and ensure that Congress has a rightful say, in the use of emergency powers? Will you support those efforts?
I'm not going to speak on future legislation, but the administration will review anything that comes to their desk, and OMB will have a definite role in reviewing that legislation, as you know, in terms of our enrolled bill process for the president.
So, very simple question. Do you believe Congress has a rightful role in the use of emergency powers?
Again, Congress provided the laws that the president uses to declare emergencies. If Congress wants to make changes to those laws, that's their prerogative to do, and the administration will consider those and have a position if those bills get to his desk.
Mr. Vogt, the federal government relies on the Inspector General to conduct independent oversight, as you know. Root out waste, root out fraud, and abuse of a taxpayer dollars that it finds. So my question for you, sir, is do you agree that the Inspector Generals are vital to protecting federal programs from inefficiency and waste?
Yes, absolutely. As a congressional staffer and director of OMB with various roles, benefited greatly from the reports of the IG community.
Great. So during your previous tenure as OMB director, you did not comply with an investigation into delayed disaster recovery funding for Puerto Rico that was conducted by the Department of Housing and Urban Development's Inspector General. So my question for you is that under the Inspector General Act, agency heads are required to provide all information and assistance requested by IGs to the extent practical. So why did you and your staff fail to comply with the law during the HUD OIG investigation?
Senator, I assure you I'm always responding to the advice of counsel, and the extent to which that applied in that instances is the same.
So your legal counsel said avoid the law, just basically violate the law. That's the kind of advice you get?
Again, we go through a process with all the requests that come in, and we figure out what we're required to do, and we did that in that instance, and we will do that again on a case-by-case basis.
So again, I have to echo my colleagues, Senator Slotkin. You do give really good bureaucratic answers, which is why people, I guess, are crazily frustrated with bureaucrats. You are a very good bureaucrat and not answering questions. Even when you avoid the law, you try to find some sort of bureaucratic runaround so that you can get away from doing what's right. It's really unfortunate. My next question is, under leadership, OMB also obstructed the GAO review on delayed Ukraine assistance by refusing to comply with GAO requests for information, and you also defied a congressional subpoena that was issued by the House Intelligence Committee in 2019. So you defied a congressional subpoena. Will you comply with a congressional subpoena if you receive one from this committee, or will you defy it as you've done in the past?
Senator, as you know, the president was being impeached at that time. The Office of Legal Counsel instructed the appointees of the executive branch, because their agency counsel were not going to be allowed to participate in those proceedings and therefore protect privileged information, not to go to the Hill. So of course I will come to Congress if subpoenaed, but there's a reason why we consult our lawyers, particularly at the Office of Legal Counsel, as to their determinations with protecting the presidency, and an agency head has to listen to what they have to say.
So I just, Chairman Paul and I have had many discussions about subpoenas and the fact that our subpoenas are basically ignored by the administration in both parties, not in both. This is not partisan in any way. But it's clear, Chairman Paul, we're going to get the same kind of stonewalling on subpoenas if we continue to get these kind of bureaucratic answers from OMB under the leadership of Mr. Vogt. Mr. Vogt, will you commit to complying with all oversight requests you receive from the Inspector General, the Government Accountability Office, and Congress, or will I get the same bureaucratic runaround answer that I've received in all the other questions?
That's not how I would characterize it, Senator.
Of course not.
We will respond transparently to all the oversight requests, and we will make sure that, subject to the advice of the council, you are getting the information that you need to do your oversight responsibilities. That is a priority of my time at OMB, and when I get letters from senators, I take them very seriously. I want to be known immediately about them so that we can get after responding to senators and what they've asked for.
So I expect I'm going to get the same bureaucratic answer to my last question here. Will you commit to fully and promptly responding to oversight requests from this committee, including from the ranking member and from other minority members? You've already stated that you will take these letters seriously.
We will definitely respond to your letters.
And respond with another very eloquent bureaucratic answer that, sorry, we can't comply. Is that what we should expect? We certainly got it the last time you were in OMB. How is it going to be different this time? How will things be different this time?
Senator, I would go back to something earlier that you said. We come up here and we are, when you subpoena us, when you request for us, even beyond using the subpoena power, we come to Congress. You've never, outside of the impeachment situation, you don't have an example to point to in which we're not willing to come and defend our actions before these bodies and the ones in the House. That will continue, and we will continue to help you do the oversight process that I think is vital by giving you the information that you need. At the same time, respecting the differences between the executive branch and the legislative branch, and that the president has a policy deliberative process that needs to be respected as well.
Well, time will tell.